We are back. Carolina unfortunately loses in their home opener. We will touch on that to start off the show, but just want to give you guys a little bit of a brief rundown. But to start, I'm your host, Kyle, joined alongside my father, Paul, and my brother, Cam. And we're here to bring you guys our updates on the Carolina Hurricanes. But just to go over what we're going to be running down through this episode, we're going to talk about the home opener, talk about the players that we thought played well, some of the players that we thought struggled, what we saw from this game that we'd like to see more of on Tuesday against New Jersey. And then we'll take a little look around the NHL and see kind of what we think are some of the cool stories of the NHL so far this season. But to open it right up with you guys, Carolina loses 4-1 in their home opener. Two empty net goals at the end of the game. So a 2-1 game going into the last, minute and a half of the game. You guys were both there, correct? If I'm in saying that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. So you guys got to see it from the actual bird's eye view. I got to see it from TV. So we might have some differing opinions based off of the different ways we got to view the game. But Carolina loses 4-1 to start the year. I just want to get your overall thoughts on the game to start.
I think overall, I think to start the game, I think 5-on-5 we were pretty good. I didn't really dislike our game. I think we, and I think you guys touched on it in the game preview, is that we can't give a team like Tampa opportunities on the man advantage. So I think that was our downfall for sure, no doubt. But I think overall, I think the game was what I expected. I think Cameron and I had this discussion after the game last night. I think it's what we expected the game to look like. And we hope that it's not a sort of a reoccurring symptom of the team for the whole year, but it was sort of our expectation. And we didn't want to lose, obviously, but I thought, we saw some good things, we saw some bad things. But we know that Roddy will make the corrections where he needs to. But overall, I didn't dislike our 5-on-5 play. But where we got killed was, to your point from the other night, is that we got killed on the power play. So we gotta stay out of the box, especially against Tampa. They're just deadly on the power play, and I think you made that point, Kyle, the other night, that you can't give Kucherov an opportunity. So, he'll take advantage of it. So, but overall, not a terrible first game. You suck, you come out on the wrong end of it, but I think we move on to Tuesday.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's just a different team. It's a whole different team, and it's going to have to be a different identity of this team versus the team from last year. So, it's a lot of, a lot of promising stuff out of, some of the guys we saw. But yeah, the 5-on-5 was decent. I think that, there was really two lines going the whole night. I think the first two lines were kind of absent for most of the night. I don't think our first line or second line really showed a whole lot through the game, especially 5-on-5.
Yeah.
So, third and fourth line were definitely our better lines for sure. I think the third line was probably the best line. It's the one that scored the goal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's, I mean, you hope that, you get into these 2-1 games with a team like Tampa. I guess on the positive side is, imagine if, line 1 and 2 were actually going.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it was basically a 1-1 game until the last 5 minutes or 7 minutes of the game. It was tight, and they just, got 2 on the power play. So I don't know. And it's kind of, what we expected though. It's going to be a lot of growing pains and bumps and stuff on the road. So, I hope it's not a symptom, but, I
Me
foresee
too.
it's going to be a tough month for sure. It's not going to be easy for the Canes to stay at 500 playing like that. So, or above 500, let alone at 500. So, I mean, I think they played okay, but they just didn't play well enough to win for sure.
Yeah.
So,
I think to tag on to Cameron's point, Kyle, that, one of the things that we mentioned too, as we were leaving the arena last night, is that, and we hoped that they would change it as the game progressed, but they flip-flop Roslovic and Svechnikov on those 2 lines, and I thought Svech and Necas and Kotkaniemi were probably our best line in preseason. And they just looked disconnected. They didn't look like they knew, what was going on. It was, passes were missed, and it's just that they didn't have that flow. So I was really surprised to see that switch made on in the first game, and I think that is sort of probably a reason why the first 2 lines weren't going, because they just didn't have that feel yet. So hopefully they get the feel, and Tuesday brings a much different result.
Yeah, well, we were, the Carolina Hurricanes were sleeping in the locker room for the first 10 and a half minutes of that game anyways. So they started off on the wrong side of that game. I thought they generated a ton of momentum towards the second half of that first period. Second period, I thought was all Carolina. And then, Tampa ends up scoring the one goal in the power play in that or the first of their 2 goals on the power play in the second period, off of a nice little play to Braden Point. But we will actually move over to our power play. So Carolina had 4 opportunities last night,
Yeah.
and I think probably about 2 shots through the 4 opportunities. They didn't
Yeah.
look very good, didn't look very connected. And in all honesty, it almost looked like Gossesfer was a completely new player to the organization, which granted, he didn't have long here. He didn't really get to fully settle in here when he was here the first time. But I mean, my goodness, they couldn't connect a pass. They couldn't really sync
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
anywhere. They couldn't get a clean zone entry. They couldn't make a play.
Yeah, the other thing too on top of that is I think and I'm gonna give Tampa a lot of credit because their penalty kill was really good,
Yep.
and it was super aggressive. They did not give Carolina any time, and I
Mm-mm.
think that was a difference too, and when you're a little bit disconnected and you don't have that comfort yet in the flow, to have an aggressive penalty kill, I mean, kudos to them. I mean, they put us in a position to make those mistakes. I thought once the guys got settled in a little bit, there was some good flow. There's good connection. There was some and to Cameron's point, I think how you could have put our fourth line out there on the power play, they probably would have generated more offense, quite honestly. But I think Tampa did a really good job of making us look like we didn't know what we were doing on the power play. I think it got better, on the latter penalties, but for the most part, we just looked disconnected, just all better on 5, but more disconnected on the power play for sure.
Yeah, I'll put a and for me, I guess it's an asterisk for better on 5 on 5. I also think that, Tampa played really well. Also, defensively, they played really well. So, I mean, if we're gonna be honest too, I mean, Tampa's been the high flying offensive team for, gosh, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years at this
Uh-huh.
point since they
Mhm.
kind of were started to go on those cup runs. So, for the Canes to only hold them realistically to 2 goals, I mean, throughout the game, zero 5 on 5 goals, I will add.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, with these, it's the first game of the season. You try not to blow
Yeah.
stuff into hyperbole here because, there's, 81 more games to go. So, it's just and we said this what 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. This is well, and
Yep.
I believe this too. As soon as right after the trade deadline is, this is kind of going to be a gap year for the Canes. Like this is going to be the year where it's going to be a learning curve for a large majority of the players and kind of the team and Rod as well. It's going to be a lot of pressure on him to make the adjustments when he needs to make them, and you
Yeah.
know, I I hope they can make them quick because obviously last year I think we were getting some wins around this point, like at the beginning of the year we were getting some wins, but our penalty kill was terrible, our power play was terrible, and it took about 2 months for that to really kind of turn the corner. So I hope they can turn the corner sooner because if we go 2 months with our penalty kill and power play being terrible, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if we stay above 500. So, and again, I guess I'm blowing a little bit of hyperbole here, but I'm just, trying to be a little bit realistic with, expectations that,
Yeah.
this isn't my missed opportunity of 2 years ago with, I thought that team 2 years ago was the team that was going to win the cup. So when they lost, got swept by Florida in the conference final, I mean, that was the best team the Canes could put on the ice, I think, in the last probably 10 years. So, but again, it's just a retool. kind of thing. Just
Yeah.
looking for some new players, some young blood that can come in to, kind of spark something here. So, but we'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah, I
And
thought they played okay. Again, you move on to New Jersey on Tuesday.
I don't know if you have the stat in front of you, Kyle, but it seemed like we could not win a faceoff last night.
I
I
can pull
mean,
that up for
it was
sure.
like every
They
time.
definitely couldn't in the first.
Yeah. So it
It
was
kind
like,
of balances itself out. I
yeah,
tend to like because on the runner in the arena, they have the face off percentage. We were sitting just at 50, if not a little over 50%. So I don't know if that changed towards the end of the game,
right.
but
Yeah, so we won 53% of the faceoffs
yeah,
last night.
that's it's kind of the first period was like 80 to 20, 80% Tampa, 20% Carolina. We
Yeah.
could not win a face off. I'll tell you what, Stahl can't win face offs, man.
I
I don't know
know.
what
I was going to
happened.
say the same thing.
He has
That's just
been he's been
uncommon.
struggling.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's, like, losing his timing or what is going on, but
It's
he's
game 1.
no, I know, that's what I mean, but that was kind of a symptom last year too, though. Like,
Yeah.
we saw that last year as well, so, I'm hoping again, I'm hoping it doesn't correlate to other games 'cause he's our face we need him. Like, we
Yeah.
need him
Yeah.
to win big
Yeah.
face-offs. We don't really have another guy that can do what he does consistently, with him winning. Generally, for what we've normally seen him winning 60% of his faceoffs, so that's the guy we need.
100%. I do want to, before we get too far into the team overall, I do want to touch on the Carolina's penalty kill last night because it was 2 for 6, or sorry, Tampa's power play was 2 for 6, 33%. And it just looked a little discombobulated to start the power plays. And then once you got into the power plays after the
Yeah.
first like
Yeah.
10, 15 seconds,
Yeah.
we kind of settled into it. But man, off of 2 basically face-off plays, we lose man coverage, or not even man coverage. We lose our positioning in our box outs, and they scored 2 goals within the first 10 seconds of both power
Yeah.
plays.
Yeah.
Like I said, outside of that, I thought the penalty kill actually looked halfway decent. It was just literally the first like 10, 15 seconds of the start of each one of them. We would lose the face-off, and then all of a sudden it was just run around central to try and get
Yeah.
into some sort of position, and then end up scoring 2 goals off of it.
Yeah.
The second goal, I know it's early. Freddie was off his angle significantly on that second one. I don't know if you guys got to see the replay, but I mean, my goodness, he was sitting at the top of the crease, but he was like squared up like he was in the center of the ice when in reality, Kucherov was like almost top of the circle when he actually got the shot off. So it just wasn't the best look, especially from the replay angle, but he just looked a little bit off his angle. Granted, everything else in that night, really nothing you could lay on him. So,
Yeah.
but what did you guys see from the penalty kill overall?
I thought it was decent at times, and again, but it goes back to I think what we said earlier, Kyle, on the penalty. If you don't win a faceoff, that's what happens. So yeah, we won 53% of the faceoffs, but we lost them at the wrong time, and I think that's what you do, especially against a team when Kucherov is on the ice or Point's on the ice, and those guys. I mean, they're so dangerous if you don't get puck possession on the penalty, and that's what we did last year. That's why our penalty kill was so effective last year, and I don't think we lost many faceoffs. And we got it back, and down the ice it went, and that's the way we started our penalty kill. And, on those 2 goals, we didn't. So, I think that's gonna be, something Roddy's gonna take a look at, obviously, and Daniels and the crew, but man, you gotta win those faceoffs, especially against teams that are so deadly on the power play like Tampa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to re-up, guys, a couple points here. Stahl's face-off winning percentage last night was 66.7%. Drury's was 72.7. Aho 35.7. Jarvis 25%. Kokaniemi 62.5, and then Roslovic 33.3. So our actual centers outside of Aho were all significantly in the winning side. Aho with 35.7% the face-off
Yeah.
circle.
How does it say how many faceoffs Stahl took?
I can't see. But
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure
don't
we
know,
can
man.
find that stat, but
I guess to your point, Dad, I guess it was more just it felt like he
losing
lost
him
him at
at
the
the
wrong
wrong
time.
time.
Yeah. Which made
Yeah.
him, like, exacerbated. That's the
Yeah.
only thing I can
It
think
makes
of.
it worse, you
Because it looked it literally, I was like we were both sitting here like, "Well, man, can he win a faceoff?" Like,
I know.
I don't know if he lost, like, 2 in a row, and we were like, "What is going on?" Like, it might have been
He
the same
lost.
shift
So
that he lost
I'm
them.
I'm pretty sure he was the starting PK guy for both face-off losses when they scored
Yeah.
goals right off the face-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I
Yeah.
mean, Rod said it too. It's like, I mean, he said it in his post game, we got Kucherov'd, and that's what happened. Like that, I
Yeah.
mean, you can't give that you can't give Nikita Kucherov the ability to have
Yeah.
extra ice. You just can't
Nope.
do it because he
Even
will
5 on
make you pay.
5,
Even
even
5 on
5 on
5.
5 to watch him come
Yeah.
up the ice,
It's scary.
he's like the Magic Man. I mean, he is so good.
I know. He's
I
so
mean, you
good.
don't realize how. I mean, people don't. If you watch him on TV, okay, he looks, good on
No,
TV.
even on TV, he was he
But-
turned Burns inside out, had him
If he looks good on
absolutely
TV, Kyle, he
fishing.
looks 10 times better in person.
Yeah, he
Oh,
looks
I
way better in
know.
person.
I
It's
know for a
crazy.
fact. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's
I know.
crazy.
He had Burnsy with the fishing reel over on the blue
Oh, I
line
know.
trying to get him back because he absolutely danced him. I'm like, dude, Burnsy,
Yeah.
we can't be doing that, man.
Yeah.
And granted, that was not the hardest slash I've ever seen in my entire life that he got after
mean,
The
that
other
slash,
question is,
though.
why is Burns out there against Kucherov?
because
Get
then you
somebody
have
who's got some
Slavin.
speed.
Because then
Get
you have
somebody who's got some
Slavin.
Slavin,
speed.
man.
No,
It's
I get it.
crazy. I don't.
That's
I don't
why you
put them-
have to
that's-
split them up. You can't have them
No.
out together because you
I-
need
Yeah,
Slavin
you
out there
can't.
against teams' top lines.
Especially against Tampa.
Yeah,
Against guys
hey,
like
come on.
Kucherov.
Yeah.
Yeah, against
Burns
half
just
the
doesn't-
teams in the NHL,
Basket,
Panarin's
yeah.
going to turn him inside out too.
Yeah.
Panarin, you got McDavid, you got Draisaitl, you got
Yeah.
every team that comes through. They got a guy that's going to turn.
They're going to
Burns.
exploit. It doesn't matter if It doesn't matter if
It
Jake.
doesn't matter who's coming into town. They're
Like,
gonna
all right,
turn
well, we're not
Burns.
going down his side. We'll go down the
They're,
other
they're
guy.
not, because they
Can't turn.
they tried coming down Slavin's side early in the game and they couldn't do it. So they
No.
switched.
Yeah,
They
Yeah.
just switch your entry.
And then it puts Slavin on an island. I guess we'll move into let's try and stay on top as much as we can.
Okay.
So let's go over to the Canes players that we thought played well. I'm going to start it off. I think, yes, while being possibly on the wrong line, I thought Andrei Svechnikov was our best player by a long shot last night. He was the most physical. He had the most. I mean, every time I felt like we had an actual halfway decent offensive opportunity, he was the one leading this charge. I felt like outside of the third line, which I put them in their own little bracket because they were probably our best line overall last night. But especially in the first period, the second half of the first period, and all of the second, Andrei Svechnikov was, I think, our best player, at least from where my seat was on the couch here up in Massachusetts. So,
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think there's, other guys that had, I thought, really impactful games, maybe got limited ice time. But I think Andre, I think he just didn't have the connection with Jarvis and Aho last night for whatever reason. Maybe he's.
I just don't think his line mates played very well.
No,
to
I
be
don't think he
completely
did
honest
either.
with you.
But overall, I mean, I like I said, I didn't dislike his game. I thought he played really well as well. But I think that flip flop line really hurt him from truly being effective because I don't think he had anything to work with. And I hate to say that about Jarvis and Aho, but they'll figure it out, I'm sure. But
Oh yeah, game two will be a different story for
yeah,
that line.
it'll be
100%.
And I thought, Aho had glimpses, Jarvis had glimpses, but it wasn't consistent glimpses. So it was spotty at best for
No.
game one.
The two of them did not catch a single pass with any speed last night. They were flat-footed every time they got a puck. And they got exposed because you can't get caught flat-footed, especially against a team like Tampa. Maybe against San Jose last year when you're playing an AHL roster, you can get caught flat-footed and still make a play with it. But both of them, I felt like every time they received the puck, neither one of their feet were moving. And granted, the passes were all over the shop last night. I didn't think we were clean at all in the passing department, but I guess we'll stick with the positive note here first. I also thought another guy, granted, while trying to do a lot, I think had really good foot speed through the night. And I think once we kind of clean up the passing act overall, I think he's going to be very effective. I thought Marty Natchez had a really good night last night, especially in the speed department. He was flying last night.
Yeah. He tried to do, he still tried to be a little cutesy on a handful of plays, which is going to be Marty Natchez. He's going to do that.
We still need that. We need some of it.
We do. No, we do. I don't disagree. It just, we need it at the right time. And sometimes he was trying to do it at our blue line, which is a little bit dangerous. So we got to he's got to be mindful of that. But overall, I agree with you. I thought he had a good game. He had, good looks at the net. And the problem is all of our looks there was no traffic. So you can't score on Vasilevsky with no traffic. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So we were picking corners on something that wasn't there, and every shot was wide. But I do agree with you. I think Marty had a really good game.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think for me, I'm trying to. I don't know if anybody really had like everybody had their moments for me. Like nobody kind of stood out as like their. I mean, I guess if I'm being real honest, I think our best player last night was probably Freddie. Outside of the one goal that he gave up to Kucherov on the power play where he was kind of out of position. I mean, some of those saves he made to keep the game at 1-0 was like he stopped Kucherov point blank literally on the doorstep and twice, I think, in like the second period when Tampa had a
Yes.
couple of their chances. Like, I mean, I thought he played really, really well. Like he was really steady. Obviously, outside of being, a little out of position. Granted, giving Kucherov a free one timer on the power play is not going to be, the most ideal situation, and he's gonna do that more this year now that Stamkos is gone. So
Mhm.
Stamkos was the guy that was doing that before, but now it's gonna be Kucherov. So you just gotta they really gotta, especially playing against Tampa, they just gotta tighten that up. But yeah, I mean, I thought Freddie played really well. I thought Sean Walker played really well as well. I thought he was one of our better defensemen. So he had obviously he made a couple mistakes with the passing, but everybody's passing was just not
Yeah.
great last night.
But
So
my I guess my issue with Walker's game last night was he there's a good time to pinch and a bad time to pinch, and I felt like he got caught more on the bad time to pinch side of things last night than he did on the good side. There were definitely a couple. He's a lot like Dmitry Orlov in that sense, where he jumps and it's like one of those Hail Mary jumps where I feel like Orlov gets away with it more than Walker did, at least last night. But, I mean, especially against a team like Tampa, I thought in the second and third period, we gave up way too many odd man rushes. There were way too many times where we took a tough pinch, and then all of a sudden it was a 2-on-1 or a
yeah,
3-on-2 going back the other way, and I'm like, "You can't give a team like Tampa that many opportunities because they're bound to score." I
yeah,
honestly thought Kucherov kinda struggled last night, at least shooting the puck, because good golly, I can't talk. The one save you were talking about was Freddie in the second period. Kucherov had the 5-hole wide open. He just ended up shooting it at his pad. Not something you're gonna see from midseason form Kucherov very often, where I think he struggled. He had almost was gripping the stick a little tight last night up until that third period when he finally got on the board, and then, ends up
and he got a
putting
hat
away
trick in the third
2
period.
empty
Yeah.
he put yeah, 2 empty net goals. And the
Yeah.
second one, I don't know how long you guys stayed for the game. He was sat at the far blue line. They were playing 6-on-4 down low. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like he was cherry picking the far blue line. Granted, they got the puck out. He scored the hat
I
trick.
mean,
Good
like,
for him.
it
But
works. So,
yeah,
whatever works.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that yeah, I mean, I guess my only pushback on the pinching is, I mean, that's kind of that's the system that Carolina runs. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah, no,
want the
I
D
don't
to
disagree.
pinch, and part of those odd man rushes comes from the forwards not necessarily not working hard enough to get back, but not being
Yeah.
and knowing to be like, hey, he's gonna pinch. Like I need to be in a position
Yeah.
up high to when he pinches that I can cover
No,
and
I
make it
I
an even
I
man
I
rush,
a million
basically.
percent agree, Cam. I was going there too, is that our high forward was terrible last night. I mean, we had 3 guys below the goal line half the time or down low, but below the dots, and I think
Yeah,
that's
we'd
what.
never usually have a high forward though, because that's why
No,
teams can
no, I
break
know
out
that,
right
but
through the center of the
but you
ice
but
through us.
but it but to that point there, you gotta adjust, and if you're gonna
100%.
keep
Yeah.
giving up odd man rushes, I mean, you gotta do something different, or you gotta win the battle down low and not let them break out, and I think that's what we didn't do either. So,
Yeah.
again, I'm not jumping on it too hard because it's
It's
game
game
1,
one.
but,
Game one, like I said,
what
it's
if we're
mm,
still talking about the same crap at game 10, then okay, something's gotta change. But we're gonna give a lot of rope here, and hopefully Tuesday we see a much different outlook.
yeah.
Yeah. Couple like 2 last guys I wanna make note of. Well, I guess
Mhm.
4, technically speaking, just on the positive side. I thought our 3rd line was our best line last night. I really
Yeah.
like the addition of William
Yeah, I do
Carrier
too.
to that line. I think once they get a little bit more synchronized, that's gonna be a really effective line. I thought you could tell Carrier was brand new to the system at times, and I think you could tell that Stahl and Martinook were looking for areas where typically Jesper Foss would be, where Carrier wasn't quite synced up with them in that same
Yeah.
regard. I think give them a little bit of time, and that line's going to be really effective. I really like Carrier's game. He's heavy.
Yeah, I know. He's a big dude, and he plays that way too. And
Plays with speed, a lot
yeah,
of
I know.
speed.
The nice thing, and then for kids listening, if you watch the goal that they scored, I know I'm from a coach standpoint, you pound it into the brain of kids, is go to the front of the net with a stick on the ice, and that's exactly what Stahl did, and he just found him, and it just was he didn't
Mhm.
really have to shoot, it just kind of he could have just deflected it in off his stick, so,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it was a great play, Marty creates the turnover, Carrier gets the wrap, and Jordan finishes, so
The
great that all three of them contribute on the goal.
the one thing I want to make note of on the goal too, for the younger players, I guess. One thing, if you go back and watch Stahl's stick, he doesn't put it on the inside of the pad where he has a
Mhm.
little bit better leverage. He makes sure the stick's on the outside of the skate. So that way, all he has to do is deflect it. I feel like sometimes, especially with our top end guys, they struggle with that aspect a little bit where they almost try and jam it through the 5 hole. And it's like, that's not there. You get on the outside of that pad, and you give yourself way better leverage to not even have to elevate the puck that much. Where I feel like
Right.
sometimes they try and jam it up like right
Yeah,
through there, and it's
yeah.
like, hey, just I know you don't have as much leverage on it, but you don't need leverage. You just need to redeflect. You just
It's
need to
just direction,
redirect it.
yeah, at
Yeah,
that
you
point.
don't need to get a bunch of pepper on it. You just got to get it to the net.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's just a good thing that I think Stahl did. Granted, when you're a 6'3" frame, you got a little bit more leverage than
Yeah,
Aho and
yeah.
or Jarvis at 5'9". Um, well, we'll switch over to a couple people that we kind of felt like struggled a little bit last night. Granted, game one, it's a lot of pregame jitters. Some guys didn't play that much in the preseason. Some guys played more in the preseason. So in Carolina's preseasons are always weird, where we have this big week-long break before the ramp up of the season, where a lot of other teams, they'll play basically right up to the start of the NHL season. I
Yeah.
know Tampa was supposed to have a game on Tuesday or Monday night, ended up
Monday
getting,
night,
I
yeah.
think, yeah, ended up getting postponed or canceled. But I mean,
Canceled, yeah.
The NHL season started Tuesday, so that's what typically the preseason games go till, is they'll go to that Saturday or Sunday. We didn't play until
Right.
but we didn't play since the previous Saturday. So
Yeah.
I like the idea that Rod has, because the season's very long. Don't try and start games way early, but I always struggle. It's like you almost need to play one or two more. I'd rather see them play, the first two games later in the preseason cycle, and then
Yeah.
play up until basically the start of the season. And for the last game, have pretty much an NHL roster and let them get the kind of the jitters out, because these guys are NHL players. I
Yeah.
expect a fully different team Tuesday night against New Jersey.
Mhm.
But a couple players that I think struggled. And this guy I kind of expected to. I almost expected Carrier to feel a little bit of the same way, because our system is very different than a lot of other NHL team system. Jack Roslovic struggled a little bit. Granted, he was practicing with Aho and Jarvis for the entirety of pretty much preseason, and then gets flip-flopped to a different line before the start of the season. Don't know if that was the best adjustment. Again, I'm not
Yeah.
Rod. He must have saw something in practice that we don't see. But I thought he struggled a little bit last night. He looked a little out of sync.
He definitely did. Early on, I thought as the game progressed, he got better. I thought he made a couple of bonehead passes in the D zone, no doubt. But I think as the game went on, I thought he got better. He's actually one of those guys he's got a really, I mean, he can knock pucks out of the air like nobody's business. I was amazed. It was like it was effortless for him. And, but I thought as the game progressed, he didn't get as much ice time. It seemed like they were, I don't know why maybe it's because of penalty kill or power play or what the issue was, but,
Yeah, when you're on the
but
PK 6 times and on the power play 4, it
yeah,
kinda screws up some guys that aren't getting
right.
those minutes.
So there again, the flow of the game. But I thought as the game got better, I thought he got better. I think he's going to be pretty good in the D zone, from what I saw last night. It's only a one game sample size, but I think he's going to be decent in the D zone. And then like I said, if once they figure out, the the flow of the line combinations. I think he's going to be, he's going to be better as as the weeks progress. But I think I agree with you. He started it slow. Passing was, but everybody's symptom of everybody. Passing was terrible early on in the game, but I thought he got better. So that's encouraging. That he got a little bit better as the game progressed on. Yep.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think for me, and again, this is just, I feel like I'm prefacing everything I'm about to say with always with, hey, it's game one. Like I can't, we're giving him a lot of rope, but I thought Aho struggled a lot last night.
Hmm.
I thought he was probably our worst forward last night. Um, and again, he's definitely he's not even anywhere close to the worst player on the team, but he had an off night, and whether it's in the face-off department or whether it's in just passing department or just getting up the ice, getting back. Like it felt like he was kind of, he was towing a trailer for some reason. Like
Yeah.
he didn't really have much going last night. So, I thought Jarvis played okay. I don't, he drew that one penalty from the forecheck on the penalty kill, which was,
He could have almost gotten a penalty
I
too
know, like
to
yeah, it was
start.
close. Like it was really, really close. But yeah, like I said, I think he definitely struggled. I do not expect him to be as absent as he was last night in Tuesday's game. I
Oh
definitely
yeah.
think he's going to be, he's one of those guys where, I mean, you could see it from whether it's, the videos on the video board in the arena or whatever. He's one of the most competitive guys on the team, if not the most competitive guy. So he's definitely not going to take that lightly. So I think, I think he struggled, but I definitely think we see, a very different team on Tuesday for sure.
Now, I'm gonna pose a question out there, because we kind of just went through all the players that were on my list. Oh, the other guy that I think struggled significantly last night was Brett Burns, but not kind of here nor there in that regard because we all kind of agree that I don't think he should be playing on that top unit with Slavin.
Yeah, I don't believe
Um,
so. But yeah, we
but
digress.
yeah, we digress. Would you look at a situation where you put Blake into the top six for Tuesday night's game? Because I thought he was one of our more efficient forwards when he was on the ice. I mean, we talked kind of about it in the
Yeah.
preseason. If he's not going to play top 6 minutes, why is he kind of up
Yeah.
in the Carolina system? I don't necessarily know he fits our fourth line role as much as he's kind of playing, but would you look at that possibility of possibly moving him up and just seeing if that sparks something?
I tell you, he's my I love to see the way the kid played the game, and he played the game really, really well, and he played effectively. I think he if he could move into that. It's just a matter of who do you slide back, and do you slide back a Roslovic or do you slide back a you don't really take any of the top three guys out. I mean, but a guy like Roslovic, do you pump him back a little bit until he gets his footing under him? But I thought Jackson Blake was for a rookie, and he was outstanding. I said it from the game one. I mean, Cameron and I both said to almost looked at each other simultaneously. He made a couple of plays early in the first period. I was like, that's going to keep him on the roster. I was like, plays like that are what you need out of a guy like that. And I know we've harped on him or jumped on his bandwagon and said this kid deserves to be on the team. Well, he showed last night he deserves to be on this team. And so, yeah, he could slot into the top six. It's just a matter of where do you put him?
Yeah, and obviously you put him in the top six. He's not a big guy, so
Yeah.
our top six would get lighter, and I don't know if we need that necessarily at this point. But yeah, I mean, he was again, and I think the thing that I liked is that he he didn't make mistakes. Like he made the right play. I don't. I'm kind of stuttering here because I'm trying to think if he'd actually made like a blatant mistake where I was like, oh man, that was
No, he
rough.
did.
I
There was
don't think of one. I
there
can't
was
think of one where I was like, oh man, that was really bad.
Yeah, the only one I can genuinely think of is there was one opportunity, I think first period, where he tried to jam it through the center of the ice. This is offensive zone, so he's trying to create offense. I'm not
Yeah,
taking that.
yeah,
Like it's not really a mistake. He was trying to generate offense, but
yeah,
he had a little bit more time and space than he probably thought he did, and he tried to backhand it through the center of the ice, and it ends up into a little bit of a quick breakout for him. Outside of that, I totally
yeah,
agree. I don't remember anything where it was like, "Wow, yeah, that
yeah,
was a rookie mistake."
yeah.
Yeah. So
But I
it's
think the other
him
thing too
taking
is
care of the puck.
his D play is really good too. I
Mhm.
mean, he came back up the ice and he never took a shift off. And his D zone coverage was good. He was back when the D were pinching, he was back. I mean, I don't know, there was like probably 3 or 4 times where he was the first guy back in our zone
He
to
was,
retrieve the
yeah.
puck.
He retrieved
And
the
then
puck in the D zone, yeah.
he allowed the reset. So, when you're looking at a player, if you have that much D zone responsibility and you can still generate offense, I mean, that flip pass up the center of the ice to create that breakaway was absolutely insane.
That was crazy. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
nuts. I mean, and that's something you don't expect out of a rookie. Um, but his patience and his confidence and his poise, I'm telling you, I know we said it at nauseum, but this kid is the real deal. And I know Nadeau is in the minors, but that's where he needs to be because he's not big enough yet. But those two guys are the future of this program. And I think they're going to be something to see down the road. And I think Jackson Blake has earned his right to stay on this roster for sure, no
The
doubt.
Yeah.
funniest part with that is I don't even think you said our 2 best prospects. So, I mean, we still have
Yeah.
that, Nikishin, who's definitely the
Yeah,
top prospect,
yeah,
but I think out of the 3 of them, I think the best forward that we're gonna see is gonna be Felix Unger-Sorum. I
I
think out of
agree.
the 3 of them, he's gonna be once he hits his stride, 19 years old right now, he's
hmm
playing his 2nd year of professional hockey. I think he's gonna be in the lineup
And he's
before
playing
we
NBA this year too.
that's what
Last
I'm
year he was
saying though.
playing in Europe.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a 2nd year of professional hockey because I mean, he played in Europe in the SHL last year. No, the La Liga. I mean, I don't know, one of the 2 leagues out of there. But now he's playing in the AHL. So 2nd year of pro hockey. I think he has the most upside out of the 3 of them, and that's a good thing because I think very highly of Blake and very
yeah,
highly of Nadeau. So
yeah,
if he's the best of the 3, then we got a 3-headed monster in the wings
yeah.
that's going to be
I agree.
really good.
Oh, I agree. I'd forgotten about him, but yeah, no, I think at least, I mean, those 2 I'll still hold true. And then, but Ungersorm is he's the turbo of the future.
Yeah,
He is, yep.
100%. He's gonna be a lot like now whether he ever lives up to the potential of this, he probably it's very hard to because I think this is one of the best players, especially Russian-born players that we've ever seen, but he's very much Nikita Kucherov-esque in the way he plays the game, where it's
Mhm.
very not and it's funny because I always thought, and it might not be the best thing for young kids to hear. I always thought going 100 miles an hour full speed on the forecheck and always going 100 miles an hour was the best thing. But then you watch Nikita Kucherov, and he's going about 75%, about 90% of the game.
Yeah,
Because when you slow the game down a little bit and you're not going as fast, it forces the defenseman to jump up at you. And then when
mhm,
they jump up at you, it creates space behind. It forces defensemen to kind of get into positions they wouldn't typically get in because instead of being able to time a guy coming down, when you change the speed up and you change how
yeah,
fast you're going at them, it forces them to make a decision. And when you force other players to make decisions and not you, it opens up space for them. When you're coming down 100 miles an hour at them, and kind of a Jordan Martinook-esque where that's kind of your bread and butter is just skating at the guy and hoping you can get around him, kind of chipping it off
yeah,
the boards and going to get it. You're making the decision. The defenseman doesn't have to make a decision in that situation. They just have to
right.
cut you off. That's the only thing they have to do, and they're really good at that, especially in the NHL. So I think that's what especially even Blake and Nadeau, I think they both have that kind of same ability where they don't play the game at 100 miles an hour. They play the game at,
Yeah,
75% and allow the game to come to them. And then when they need to go 100, they go 100 and they have the
yeah,
capability to do it. So I'm really excited for the future portion of it. I like you Cam said, it's a gap year. I hope we can keep all 3 of those guys, all 5 in reality because we have Morrow
Mhm,
mhm,
and Nikishin on the back end as well too. But I hope we can keep all 5 of those guys. But I mean, either way, I think Don Waddell left us in a very good situation, and whether that was Don, Eric, whoever it was, I mean, all 5 of these guys were drafted either late first round or but, I mean, Blake was a 4th round draft pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I know. I know. I know. I mean, you look at, look at draft picks that have gone late in the draft and how successful they've been in their careers. I mean, the one that always jumps to mind is, how somebody didn't see it in the earlier rounds, but, a Pavel Datsuk. I mean, guys like that. I mean,
Zetterberg,
when you find guys like that, and again, to your point, Kyle, Zetterberg, Datsuk, they were the two-headed monster in Detroit for so many years.
both
And
drafted in the 7th round or later.
they weren't high in the radar. So that's why I'm so high on Jackson Blake. I think he's one of those guys that's gonna, yeah, he went later in the draft, but man, I tell you what, he is the real deal. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we will we'll table the conversation of the individual players for now, and we're gonna move into what we would like to see more of on Tuesday. As I'm getting
Yeah, I was gonna say you got a lot of
the
glare there, bud.
absolute glow coming in, so I'm gonna move this. Give me a second. But I think a couple things that kind of jump out to me right away is the forecheck has got to be better. Our forecheck was very lackluster outside of the 3rd line. Probably the 4th line as well too. I think, like Cam said, bottom 6 was probably our best 6 forwards out of the bunch. Those top 2 lines have got to get in on the forecheck, and they got to be hungrier on pucks. And I think our D have to be way better with their gap control. I think there were way too many times that Tampa got the puck and we didn't have a defenseman within 30 feet of them. And it's like, hey, we can't. You got to be a little bit closer. You got to be tighter, especially against teams like Tampa. Can't give them any time and space.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a good symptom of how we played last night.
I think they did it at times, and then
Wasn't
early on in the game
consistent.
that they did it at times, but they didn't do it consistently. And I think that was and again, maybe Tampa adjusted and didn't allow them to get that gap and changes the way they did it. So, but I do agree with you. I think our gaps need to be for sure tighter, and we can't get in on the forecheck and treat it like a penalty kill, because we got to get in there and create transition, create turnovers, and we didn't do a good enough job. And again, game 1, like Cam said, game 1, if our first 2 lines aren't going, then that's going to be the outcome if our first 2 lines don't get going for a lot of games here in the near future. But so hopefully that that changes on Tuesday, which I fully suspect it will. But we'll see what the game looks like on Tuesday.
Now, is Pesci back for Tuesday?
No,
I don't think
No,
so.
he's still out. Okay.
Yeah.
he's probably going to be out for, I would guess, at least another couple weeks.
Of
Gotcha.
course, we
just
say
started
that. We
skating.
say that, and he'll show up on Tuesday.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So he'll be ready to play Tuesday night.
Yeah.
No, and then another thing that I think Carolina's, especially their D, struggled with. I think there were too many, and granted, symptom of Rod's system, but I think there were way too many times where it was almost a dumb pinch instead of an aggressive pinch, where it was, instead of it being a 50-50 puck, it was like a 90-10 puck, where it was 90% Tampa coming out with it, 10% us coming out with
Yeah.
it, and we still had guys jumping. I think Burns did it a couple times, Walker did it a couple times, Ghost of Spare did it a couple times, Orlov, Chatfield. I mean, go up and down the lineup. Everybody outside of Slavin, I think, had a really aggressive and not so smart pinch throughout the game. And it's just kind of cleaning that up. If you're going to pinch on 50-50s. If you think you have a chance, if there's a 50% chance you're going to win that puck, go for it. But there were times where the puck was 5 feet in front of the Tampa guy and 25 feet in front of the Carolina guy, and we were jumping. And I'm like, it's an odd man rush. Where are we going? Tampa's too good. You can't do that.
Yeah, and you talk about earlier if there was any mistakes made by the kid, and I think maybe this is a line mistake, and Cam and I both looked at each other. It's like, oh my God, nobody wanted the puck. They came out of the zone, and the puck came right up the middle, and all 3 of our guys just kind of almost drifted or stopped because they thought the other guy was getting the puck.
Yep.
And it created transition. So I think the line feel and flow and awareness of each other, I think is going to come with a little bit of time. And so, it can't take too long, but it's going to come with some time. So I think those are things that are going to be corrected as we progress.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's enough Carolina talk. Let's move a
Mhm.
little bit around the NHL, and then if we have any final topics before we end the episode, we can kind of just shoot the shit a little bit there. A couple things I want to make note of: Seattle, the Kraken, become the first NHL team with a woman as an assistant coach, which is Jessica Campbell being the first woman's assistant coach.
Yep.
Now, let me just say, I read a bad article about Jessica Campbell. And the article was not very kind on it. And I was like, hey, I'm not sure what the situation is in Seattle, but let me get over to their, I had their coaching staff up and then I switched over to stats. So let me pull it back up so I can give a little bit of a brief rundown on her history.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
she's got a pretty lengthy resume.
Yeah. And again, it's if you just want the best person. Doesn't matter
Yeah,
who they are.
100%.
it
Like you
doesn't
just
matter.
want the best person.
Yeah.
And she was with, Dan Bilesma when he was out and coaching in Coachella Valley. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
he
So
knows
this
what she brings to the table.
this article I read, let me just put it to you this way. It was not a good article. But it was stating that the highest level that she had coached at was U18. That's complete utter bull. It's so I'll go over her history here. Yeah, she was the assistant coach for 2 years with Dan Bilesma for the Coachella Valley in the AHL.
Mhm.
She reached the Calder Cup finals in consecutive seasons as well too in
Yeah.
the AHL. Before that, she was the assistant coach and skills coach for the Nuremberg Ice Tigers in the Dell in Germany. Not a bad league at all. The Dell is one of the better leagues in Europe. So 100% deserves the flowers that she's gotten. She also served as Team Germany's coach or assistant coach in the 2020 IIHF World Championships. So I mean, 100% deserves where she's at right now. It's a big, big day in hockey history. And I love the fact that, it's not just men in the coaching staff department. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the greatest minds from hockey have been women. So very happy to see that, this is a big change for the NHL. And I mean, Dan Bilesman clearly has a ton of trust in her because after
Yeah.
game one, timeout, down a goal, Dan's not the one calling the shots. It was Jessica. So she
Yeah,
was the
she's on the
one.
board.
She was on the
Yeah.
board. She was drawing up the play. They actually generated a good offensive chance off of it, but
Yeah.
they ended up losing that game. Seattle ended up taking it, but just goes to show how much trust and belief that Dan Bilesma has for her. And I mean, it's definitely going to go a long way. And hopefully, I'm hoping for nothing but success for them. Seattle, I think they could sneak into a playoff spot. I still think they're probably a little bit on the outside of it, but I mean, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think to Kim's point earlier, I think, as a coach, as a corporate anybody, you're looking for the best person. So, if the best person is gonna give you that opportunity to be successful, I don't give a crap who it is.
Yep.
And I think, yeah, I think she's gonna be like, "Well, I'm just a coach. I don't care if I'm a woman or a man. I'm just a hockey coach, and I really love this game." And that's what you want in any sport, any business, um, is you don't care who it is, you just want the best person who is passionate about what they do. And she's obviously, built the trust of Bilesma, and it showed, and it shows, and it will continue to show. And I think, you know, she's gonna keep progressing, as she moves forward. And I don't think she's very old either. She's probably in her early 30s. But, she's gonna be a force to be reckoned with, and she's smart. And you look back at her resume and what she's done, and again, for an NHL coach to put you on the board in the last minute of a game, it's kinda like a player. When you put a player out there at the last minute of a game, you have to know that that person's gonna get it done. And that's what he showed in the trust in her by doing that. So that good on him, good on them, good on Seattle, and nothing but the best for her, because, she's where she needs to be, and it's well deserved position for her.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, another kind of hot story is the Utah Hockey Club have made quite the splash at the beginning
Yeah.
half of the season. I want to check. I think they're 3-0, 2-1, somewhere in that record, but
I think they're
they've
2 and
looked
0.
good. 2 and
I
0.
almost
So sorry,
I
yeah,
think,
two
yeah.
games. Yeah. So 2 games in, 2-0, but they've looked really good, and the funny thing is there's a seat in that Seattle
Yeah,
arena. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I
I
I don't
did.
know if we're gonna talk about the same one, but there's one where you're legit, like, on a little ledge, and you're
Yeah,
right over the glass. You're
yeah.
in the corner. It's gotta be one of the best seats in the NHL. It looks
It
so
does,
fun
yeah.
to sit there.
No, I was talking about the one where the guy's sitting behind the concrete pillar or the concrete wall, and he can't see in front of the net, so he
So
can't see
that
one
yes,
corner.
there are some limited viewing seats in this arena.
Yeah.
I was gonna start on the positive side of it, but there's a certain
Yeah.
view where it's you
Yeah,
see
but
the entire ice, and it might be the best seat in the NHL. Now, to
Yeah.
the other point, there are some of the worst seats in the NHL there as
yeah,
well too. But
yeah,
owner Ryan Smith has already come out and said that he's looking to make renovations to the arena in order to accommodate the hockey arena more. Probably won't happen until the off season.
yeah,
Mhm.
But there's definitely some seats in that arena. I saw
yeah,
one where you're sitting like right above the one of the goals, and
yeah,
when you're sitting down, you can't see that goal in front of you.
yeah,
You can only
yeah,
see the other end. So it's
yeah,
just
Yeah.
like
no,
there's a
yeah,
couple tough seats in there. It's like watching
yeah.
the game at Fenway Park.
Yeah, no, and I'm excited for them. I'm excited for that market. I
But
think it's a passionate market, there's no doubt.
yeah, so the
Um,
one thing I they mentioned on the first feed is they've had pro hockey there for 50 years. So it's not like it's a new market, a fresh market to
yeah,
hockey. They don't
yeah,
need to learn the game. They know a majority of them know the game of hockey,
yeah,
but
yeah.
they just have never had the pro team there. So it's definitely cool to see. Cool to see that. But
Yep,
yeah,
good on them. I mean, I'm excited for them.
yeah,
Yeah, for
for
sure.
sure. Um, do you guys got anything else from around the league you guys want to talk about?
No, no, I think it's been an interesting first couple of days in the
Mhm.
NHL. I mean, you look at, you got, the Edmonton Oilers getting blown out. You got the Bruins, getting spanked in Florida, but
I mean,
coming
is it a
back and
sorry to go back to the Edmonton game? Is it really a blowout when you score 6 of your own goals?
well, yeah, I
It
know,
was a track meet for sure. I don't
yeah.
know if it was a blowout. It was 8-6, so it was only a 2-goal game,
Well
technically speaking.
well, I thought the game 1 was like 6-0.
No, yeah. The game for
Oh, I was
Bruins
talking
and
about the other game.
Bruins
Sorry.
Panthers, the first game of the season that they played against each other.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Panthers won by quite a hefty margin.
I was talking about the Edmonton
Yeah.
game.
Oh, I thought that was an early game. Sorry, my mistake if I
No, hold on, hold on.
misremembered
Let me
it.
let me make sure. Let me make sure.
But I
I could
thought
be wrong.
Edmonton lost, like, bad in the first game.
I'm pretty sure they did. They lost to
Oh yeah, it's 6-0 to the Jets.
Yeah.
What game am I
that's what it
thinking
was.
of?
No, you're
That's what it
thinking of the
was.
Vegas game. I
Yeah,
think the
what
Vegas game.
Vegas game was that though? I'm trying to figure that one.
Yeah, that was like 8
Oh,
to
Vegas
8.
versus Avalanche. It was 8-4. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I got
Yeah.
my numbers all messed up.
So and again, that's why I put a little I take not so much credence in game 1 for the Canes too, is that everybody starts funky and then but if the funky continues through game 10, then you gotta start worrying about it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say we're one more home game, we're on the road trip, we go out west, we play 10, I don't know, what, 4, 5, 6 games, whatever it is. So once we come out of that road trip, that's gonna be a telltale sign is where this team's at.
Yeah, that's gonna be the litmus test is
Yeah,
how we
for
do
sure.
on that
Yeah.
road trip.
I
Yeah.
agree. No,
So
they're gonna struggle, I think, for the mere fact that I think the Metro is gonna be so competitive this year.
yeah.
Like,
Outside of the top 3
dude,
teams, though, I don't know who else is there. I mean,
well,
Islanders look okay.
Islanders look okay. I think, I really do think Philly got better. I think they're gonna be good this year. I do. Um, Obviously the Rangers are good, Devils got better, obviously. Then the Canes are kind of in the mix. I think the Canes are in the looking at, the 3 spot for the
Yeah,
Metro
I think we're
wild
I
card
think we're a 3 or a wild card spot this year, quite
for
honestly.
sure. No, and again, that's, not to say that they can't, go on a run and become,
Yeah.
the number 1 team in the NHL. Like, I mean, look at Edmonton last year. They started off, God,
Terrible.
what? They were awful. They were
Yeah.
literally the team that we were like, "Are they worse than the Sharks?" Like, and they had a
Yeah.
full-blown NHL roster. So,
Yeah,
and they made a
and then
coaching
the
change,
coaching
which I hope
change
doesn't
and
happen, but yeah, and then they did that, and then they went on a run, and they went to the
yeah,
cup final, took
yeah.
Florida to 7 games. So it's, it's just you take the beginning of the season a little bit with a grain of salt because everybody can turn a corner. Again, Nashville last year was basically what 20 points out of a playoff spot, and
Yeah.
then they pulled the U2 concert out from underneath them, and then they go on a
Yeah.
run and make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right.
It just
The U2 scandal. I love it.
stuff can happen. Teams can change. Just mentality can change
Yeah.
from one month to the next. So
Look at St. Louis too. I mean, St. Louis, the
Yeah.
year they were last, I think they were last in the conference.
I think they
the
were almost
January
last in the NHL.
January 15th or something
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
the year they
dead
won the
last in
cup,
NHL. Yeah.
They were
So-
like the bottom 5.
Yeah, so
So they were dead
we're not,
last. They were
we're
dead
not being
last.
Debbie
January,
Downers.
like 15.
we're not being Debbie Downers that the Canes aren't going to, make a deep run in the playoffs, So, but all we're saying is it's going to be a little bit more challenging this year than it was in the years past.
Yeah, it's gonna take some different guys stepping up.
Yeah,
this year. Then
100% agree.
for sure.
Well, I think once our top 5 guys get going, I think we're in a.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, Natchez, maybe Kokaniemi, maybe Blake, maybe Roslovic, whoever you can kind of get. Once those guys get going, I think it's going to be a different outlook for the team.
Yeah.
It's just how long does it take for them to get going is the bigger
Yeah.
question.
That is the key.
Yeah.
So
who
we'll
who are
see.
you starting? Who are you starting Tuesday night?
I want to say the kid, but I think they'll come back with Freddie, quite honestly.
I
Really?
think so too. There's
Yeah.
enough gap between the days in the game. I think
Yeah.
they'll go back to Freddie.
Yeah, I think, I see where you're coming from, Kyle, and but I thought Freddie in tight was really good last night.
He was solid.
I think he was really good, just from our perspective. You probably have a little different view of it because you can see the replay, you can see a lot of the stuff as it happens real time. But we don't see it, but we see the play. But he looked really good and tight. He looked confident. He looked square. I didn't see the goal, a Kucherov goal. I missed, let's see, 2 of the 3 goals. I missed our goal, and I was off doing something. I don't know where the hell I was, but anyway, so I missed those. But at the same time, the other plays from Freddie, I think he's done enough to say I get to start on Tuesday. Whether he does or he doesn't, I don't know. I mean, that's up to obviously not our call. But we'll see what happens on Tuesday.
My big thing is that you can't play Freddie more than 50% of the games.
100% agree.
So why start the cycle of not going 1-1-1-1-1-1-1 now? I mean,
And maybe they do.
Yeah,
Maybe they do. I don't know. But again, it's Rod's world, man. We're just living in it.
Yeah,
I know.
He's gonna do whatever he wants.
Because you think Kochekov would have gotten he would have obviously got today's start.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
so maybe they do that rotation, that they go 1-1 and see how it goes. And but I think if it's the normal, then I say Freddie plays. If it's a new scenario for them, then maybe the kid plays. So I'm okay either way.
We've always kind of been a 1-1 rotation, I feel like. But yeah, I agree. My issue with Freddie is, and I don't know if this is from whatever reason, maybe he needs a sharper cut on his skates or whatever. You know how last year it felt like he couldn't get his footing 100% underneath him throughout the entire playoff series? I still feel like he's still struggling with the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple times where he's making the save, but there was one where I think it was Gensel in front. He makes the pad save, but Gensel is on this side of him and he's facing this way, making the pad save going this way. And I'm like, you shouldn't be caught that out of position. The Freddie Anderson that I know from just being big, confident, really calm inside of the net, I didn't see that last night. Yeah. I saw a little bit timid, more scramble mode Freddie than I've seen in years past, where it's like, hey, that's not what your game is. Your game is very much square, blocking as much net as you can, not too many sudden movements. It's very precise, very clean, very post-to-post technical. I didn't see technical from him last night. I saw very much scramble.
Well, like I said, and I think because you get a different perspective. I haven't seen highlights, but seeing it in person, it looked like he was. But again, we have a different perspective because we're looking at it in real time, and we don't have the ability to go back and look at the replay. So you may be 100% right. But he just seemed to make the save when he needed to. And I think, square or not, he made the save. I guess is my opinion.
Fair enough. All right. You guys got anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Nope,
No,
I think
I'm good.
I think we've chatted, we're ready to go, and we're ready to move on and park this one and move on to Tuesday.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's where we will leave you. Thank you guys very much for listening. If you guys enjoy what you are listening to, please like, please subscribe, follow us on your favorite platform. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube now. We're working on getting Amazon Music as well too. That process seems to be a little bit more challenging than the other ones. So once it's there, I'll let you guys know. But for this episode of Kane's Local Podcast, we thank you very much.